My son tried very hard. He tried 7 times to pass a Topstep combine. The reason why he was blowing it, trying to do the 150,000, because he was trying to trade with the maximum amount of contracts. Just because they're offering it to you doesn't mean you should do it. And he wasn't trying to adhere to any of the things I outlined for him, which is very frustrating. But yeah, I guess you're gonna do these things, especially as young men. You're gonna rush into it, and he wants to be able to show me that I can do it, Dad. Watch, I'll do it my way, and his way didn't work. So we sat down over the weekend, and I told him, I said, listen, are you ready to really sit down and do this the right way? It's going to be boring, and you want it to be boring. His number one concern is he's afraid now to push the button to get in. And I said, well, you're in good company, because that's exactly how it was for me. I was very, very scared to get into it in the beginning. In 1992, I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but I was really inspired to learn. So when I sat down with him today and told him, I said, listen, we're going to think about how a $50,000 account. I know you said you were going for that $150,000 account. Okay. And you were trying to prove to Dad you were going to go on the internet and piss all over my trolls and like you have to defend me, which you don't. I want you to think about a $50,000 account. And I want you to think about 1.5% risk of that. That's the highest you can ever go. You can never go above 1.5%. Now, if you go out and look at these funded accounts, they allow you more than that. Not by much. I think it's like 2%. But I told him, you are not allowed to go over 1.5%. Because if you go over 1.5%, you failed. In my eyes, I'm your dad. I'm telling you, you fucking failed. Not just, I messed up. You fucking failed. You took that on. You did it yourself. You chose to fail. It didn't happen to you. You chose it. So I sat with him today and I said, look, I want you to think about what 1% looks like on a $50,000 account. That's still more than you make all week long. What happens if you sit down and you make that in one day? How would that make you feel? Just one day? Yeah, one day. That's what I said. One day. What does that make you feel like? He's, oh, I would want more than that. I said, why? You're not making that right now. Because clearly, where you're working, that isn't going to cut it. I don't think it's appropriate for you to have that type of mindset where what you're doing is it's normal for a teenager. While you're in school, he was homeschooled. You go to a coffee shop and you're working there, you're making $400 a week. Wonderful. $400 a week for, a 17-year-old, it's spending money. You work all week long around these insufferable people that come to the location where he works at. And where I live at, there's this snootiness, okay? That everybody thinks they're better than everybody up here, okay? And it's, believe me, it's ridiculous. Like it's nonsensical the way they all act up here. And if you go into a place of service and a person's waiting on you, if you're going in there too and you're patronizing a place like, where my son works at, he works at a coffee shop, it's a Starbucks. And it's just unbelievable hearing some of the stories. He comes home over the year and a half he's been, it's just crazy here, these entitlement-minded people. And they come in, they talk to you like, you're less than human. That $500, if you could make that one day per week, you've replaced the whole need to go to that place. And you're not even pushing it hard. You're not even pushing it hard. You're not pushing hard to break the account. You're not pushing hard to feel like you got to keep up with some level of measurement. Somebody on the internet's doing this much, I got to do that. You don't have to look at my videos when I'm trading all those contracts and building up a large position. You ain't got to do $12,000. You ain't got to do $16,000 and $20,000, $30,000 days. You don't need to do those. You can get to those, but you have to grow into making $200 and saying, okay, $200. That's your whole week and half right there with one transaction. That's how I got hooked on this. In the 90s, I got hooked on that because my pay was less than $300 a week. Bring home. And I was thinking to myself, man, if I could just do one bond trade per week and just get half of a point, if I could just get lucky enough to find 16 ticks on one contract in the bond market, that's $500. That's better than going to work. And once I do it, I don't have to do it again because I'm scared to trade, right? Well, that was my whole approach going in, easing into it. And I sat down with him, I explained this whole thing to him today. I said, I was afraid to get into it when I was in the 90s. I mean, it was exciting, but still scary. Like, I don't ride roller coasters. I think they're thrilling to watch other people go nuts and throw their guts up and scream and, probably blow out an intestine and guttural, screams as they go down the deepest part of the decline. But I would never get on those things. I don't like them. I have to be in control. I have to be in control of me, the environment that I'm in, and that is not something I would do. And I don't want to treat my trading like that. So I have to be very methodical about what it is I'm looking for. And the way I teach you as my students, I teach that same approach. We're not gambling. We're not inviting happenstance. Okay, so I told him, I said, you're going to trade until you get fatigued. And then as soon as you are like, you just don't know why you're doing it, you just push the button to find out, okay, what happens. That moment, that's what I was waiting for. And I explained to him, I said, that's where everybody blows it. Everybody blows it. At that moment, it's because you have either hurt your account, someone has hurt your feelings or made you angry, or you're sick, or something cost you money that was unexpected. You are using that moment to replace some kind of negative thing that you're going through. Or maybe not even experiencing it yet, but you're afraid of it. You're afraid if something happens, it's looming in the offing. What happens if my girlfriend? What happens if my wife? What happens if my husband leaves me? Well, I won't feel so bad if I can make $1,000 today. When really you'll still hurt because you have emotional commitment to that. Whatever that thing might be. It might not even be a relationship. It might be some kind of a, I don't even know. It could be a number of things. But a what-if thinking scenario of something negative, something harmful that may happen to you could be a very triggering thing for you to get into a trade that has no real sound reason to be in it. And you're looking at it with the expectation, if it pays out, this is a better use of my time than sitting around worrying about something that may or may not even happen. And I have done that. And I have blown accounts in a 20-year-old mindset. I was fearful of a lot of things that never fucking happened. I had so many unrealistic fears. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? And none of it ever happened. It never happened. But they were so overwhelming to me at the time that it forced me to take on trades and take on risk, hoping that if I got paid out correctly on the other side of that trade, at least it was better than me sitting there twiddling my thumbs in fear of what may not or may come. The uncertainty of what if thinking is paralyzing. But when it's not paralyzing, it's the instigation to take you into a gambling environment. Think about it. I promise you, if you do some serious soul searching, you could go back to those times where you blew your accounts, where you've done serious damage and drawdown in your accounts. You've probably many times been been in that same circumstance and not even realized it. And the only way I identified it is because I was journaling it. And these same circumstances kept coming up when I blew the account. These things were there.